Welcome to Tech Photo Blog. This is episode number 56. This week I'm going to be talking about how you can hook up to 4 valve sensors to a single camera axe. Now the camera axe started off supporting only one of these valve sensors, and a while ago I added support for 2. But it actually has enough connections to support 4 valve sensors, so I exposed that in some software I just wrote, and I had to create a little patch cable to support more valve sensors from just a single camera axe. So before I get into that, I'll say, the valve sensor itself is one of the more popular sensors for the camera axe. The idea is you fill this portion up with water, and then the camera axe precisely controls this valve, and drops come out. And the typical use case is you have a single drop and you create a nice splash. But you can also have multiple drops coming out of this, and what that allows you to do is sort of collide a second drop with the first drop, and you get this nice mushrooming cloud effect. And the reason you might want to use multiple valve sensors is because you want to have multiple drops positioned in the same photo, or have 3 drops maybe in different stages of their splash. So there's lots of things that you can do with it. The patch cable that I created, which allows you to connect more than 2 valve sensors to the camera axe, because the camera axe has 2 sensor ports, so it was pretty easy to support 2. But each of these sensor ports has connections for up to 2 signals, and you only need one signal to drive each valve sensor. So what I did was I created a patch cable like this that just plugs into the valve sensor, and now each one of these connectors will trigger a different valve sensor. So now with 2 of these patch cables you can support up to 4 valve sensors, each with complete control over the valve. You can control its delay, how many drops, the size of the drops. We'll go through the software next. So here's the new menu on the camera axe to support up to 4 valve sensors. So what I did was, it was getting really complicated to use valve sensors before with just 2. So instead of just expanding the menu that I had before, I now have this first option in the first menu, control how many valves you want. So if you want 4 valves, you'll just turn that to 4. And if you only selected 1, there would actually be fewer of these next menus. So the typical use case where a person is using a single valve will be easier to control now, because there'll be less menu options to worry about. So here I've gone in previous videos through all of these different settings. So you have up to 3 drops, and you can control the size and delay of each of those drops. And here you've got a bunch of ways of looping and doing multiple shots, triggering either a camera or a second flash. So there's lots of things you can do in that menu, but again, this has all been covered in previous videos. And now here's all of the settings for the second valve. Here's all the settings for the third valve. Here's all the settings for the fourth valve. And then you're back to the start menu. So if you only had 1 valve, you'd have a lot less. So a lot less settings, right? You only have the valve settings and then these other standard settings, and then you're back to valve 1. So I think that this menu is actually easier to use for the person who just wants to use 1 valve. So that's how the new software is working. I'll put a link to the older videos that actually went over how to use this software. Here's the setup I used to test the new software and the patch cables that I made. You can see that I just kind of rubber banded a bunch of the valve sensors, 4 of them together, and they create their droplets down here in that dish. Over here's my camera. It's got a 100mm macro lens on it. And there's my flash. If you're trying to make really nice photos, you'd probably want to have multiple flashes going through either a multi-flash board or a multi-flash plus board. But for this test, I just had a single flash. And over here, we have the camera axe. And right here's the cable going to the camera. Here's the cable going to the flash. And then down here on the two sensor ports, we have connections to all four valve sensors. So now I'll just sort of show you a few photos that I took. These are really just test photos. They're not pretty or great shots or anything. I really rely on the community to, post their shots to Flickr, or some people email them to me, and I really appreciate that because I haven't really been taking that many great photos recently. I've kind of been involved more in developing the technology so that other people can take great photos. So I really like to see what other people can do with these setups. So please share your results. One last thing I wanted to mention is that you probably noticed that there are 5 pages worth of settings that you can choose from for the 4 valve sensors, and that's a lot of different numbers to configure. And even for those simple test shots, I probably spent 15 minutes getting those shots set up, whereas a single valve sensor these days would only take me a maximum of 5 minutes to set up. So it's going to take a lot longer to get nice results with 4 valve sensors, although for that right kind of shot, it's totally worth it. But I'd see no problem spending hours getting a shot that you really like if you have an idea of what you want. So I just put that out there because it's not a really quick thing to set up for these valve sensors. And people who want to get that kind of shot will need to put some time into getting them. Thanks for watching.